Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Ed, and I really wanted to talk to you about something that's been on my mind quite a bit. And my good friend David over at Tablet Tech built this amazing tool in collaboration with Mitchell Scott to help you make that final buying decision when it comes to an e-ink device. Because we've all been there. We've all had that analysis paralysis. We've all overthought this. We've all really struggled with it. If you're watching this video right now, you're really trying to get your head around and grapple with what would be the right device for you. And I want to talk a little bit about the process, I think, before you get to this wonderful tool that Dave made so that you know what you go in to select. So we're going to do that. We're going to talk through kind of my process when I was trying to figure out the best e-ink device for me, and also who I watched. I'm going to drop a lot of creator names in this video, so be prepared for that. And I really want you to kind of understand how I think that this tool that Dave and Mitchell have co-developed in the web interface may be the best final step that you could take before pulling the trigger and investing what is a lot of money in a very important device that should hopefully live with you for multiple years. So let's go ahead, jump in, and get started. All right, so first we're going to have a lot of screen time, just me and you talking to begin with. And at the end, I will show you the tool that I mentioned at the beginning. But I want to talk about kind of my main thought process about how you go about selecting an e-ink device. And so there's really the first step is to find out whether or not you have the right expectations. You know, if you go into looking for an e-ink device thinking that it's going to be an iPad or a Samsung tablet or some kind of LCD screen replacement, it's likely not going to be the device for you. That is not what these devices do. They replace paper. Some of them do have very good processors and can mimic to some degree what you would find on a Samsung or an Apple tablet or a high-end Android tablet. But most apps in Google or in the Google Play Store are not optimized for e-ink. So regardless of how powerful or how good the refresh rate is, if you're expecting an LCD screen experience or something snappy fast like your computer screen, you're going to be disappointed. So ask yourself that question first. Is this something I really need and I want? If it's primarily to replace your notebooks or a distraction-free way of being able to write and deal with a lot of productivity apps that aren't graphics heavy, then this very much could be, depending on whether you want black and white or color or need that, this could be for you. But make that your first priority. Decide whether or not this is a technology that you really want to explore. Second, think about whether or not you are looking for a device that needs to be able to do a lot of different things. And what I mean by that is something that's not really structured down or ecosystem driven. If you're looking for something that is, for example, in the Kindle ecosystem, you know you're going to be bound by Kindle. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you already have all of your books, all of your reading materials that you've used in the past are in Kindle, you may find something like the Kindle Scribe, and that may be perfect for you. But you don't really know that until you've had time to sit down and think about how many different platforms you use. If you're in the United States, you could still use Libby, and that allows you to push books to Kindle. If you're overseas in the EU or in the UK, you don't have that option. So think about the tools, the apps, all of the things you absolutely have to be able to truly make a buying decision. Because the worst thing you could do would be to get something that is locked down or has you tied into one ecosystem, and then the things you need are not available. That is never going to help you, and it's only going to frustrate you. So think through that. And so that's where, when we get to Dave's tools, it'll kind of help you fine tune those decisions. But how do you get there? And this comes to my third point. Watch a lot of content. When I was making my first purchasing decision, which ended up being the Supernote A5X 5 years ago, I watched everything. So, and this is where you get the name drops. I watched at the time My Deep Guide, which was Voya, who does amazing in-depth tutorials. I watched Kit Betts Masters, who does a lot of work around specific use case, does top 10 lists, and talks about all of pretty much every ecosystem and how it works and what the pros and cons and different metrics are on that. So those were my two biggest. And then I watched Brandon Boswell because I would consider him a remarkable expert. That is his device. It's the device he's been with the longest. He's absolutely awesome. He doesn't do as many videos now, but the videos that he has done have aged very well over time. And then you've seen a lot of new people enter the space. I'm one of them. So if you're interested in Supernote and comparisons and different things between different devices, come and watch my videos and take with it what resonates with you. And then you have David over at Tablet Tech. You have Aaron at 2530 Media. You have new players in the game who are creating content. You also have Khalid, and Khalid is amazing. And I'm going to drop all of these names down in the description, so don't feel that you have to be frantically writing these down. My friend Jeffrey Moss, who no longer is in the game, but did so many tutorials and videos and in-depth reviews that it's well worth going to his archive channel and just watching that. So there's a lot of content out there, and that's where the analysis paralysis really comes in. You watch this content, you listen to me, you listen to Aaron, you listen to Dave, you listen to Voya, Kit, Khalid. Vladimir Kostek is another one, real good friend of mine, who has created all kinds of content around different e-ink devices. So you watch all of us, you listen to all of our viewpoints, and you should take those with the fact that we're offering opinions. There is going to be some objective, very scientific work, depending on which channels you go to. Khalid has a robot writing machine. Voyad has an analysis framework that he has used to measure perceived and objective things from contrast to brightness to darkness, all of the different things that you can expect, writing latency. So you're going to have both perceptual and opinion-based discussion around these devices. You're going to have a lot of on-screen demos. So make sure you take the time to watch content, and you watch that content so that when you get to Dave's tool, which I think is phenomenal, you're going in with an idea of what you need. So you do your research, you think about your own needs, you watch content, and then when you're ready, what you do next is you go to this tool that I'm about to show you. All right, so here we are with Dave's tool. And to me, this is amazing. I actually really loved his first iteration of it, which was a spreadsheet, and I'll link that video down in the description. It doesn't show the spreadsheet because he remade it because of that partnership with Mitchell, but it really does so many things to be able to allow you to think through making that final purchase decision, which is what's so hard. It's very easy to get excited. I spent at least 2 to 3 weeks with Remarkable in my cart and Supernote in my cart, going back and forth, trying to just decide which one do I pick. I love the thought of both of them. They both have trade-offs. They both have good points. Which one's going to fit me best? I ended up making the right decision, but what if I hadn't? So what Dave's tool here, and he calls it the e-ink selection tool, allows you to really narrow this down, including even by price. So if you're budget conscious, if you're on a very specific budget, luckily it wasn't as expensive at the time I bought my first one, and I'd received a bonus, so I had enough that I didn't have to worry about that component of it. But this way you can do that. So you can start with budget. Where are you at? What can you afford? And then you go through the really granular details. So for me, color versus black and white. Most of you who've watched my channel before know some of this, so indulge me in case there are new people watching. I am not necessarily a color guy. I have color devices. I think they have a use case. I think they're valuable. But for me, that's not going to be my preference. So I'm going to go ahead and pick black and white. And then you're going to see over here, it's going to update in real time what the devices have. So I go ahead and say black and white. That's going to not eliminate. If you go down, you'll find some color devices, but they'll be scored very low. And then you're going to see what fits. All of these are at 100%. So you'll see all of those are black and white devices. For most of my work, don't need an extremely large device. So I wouldn't necessarily pick the 11.8 to 13.3 inch devices. However, for grading papers, and if you're going to be primarily using this as an academic case, or you need to read large PDFs and be able to see all of the components that are really important for you in that workflow, you would pick that based on your need. I'm going to say the 10 to 11 inch category. And again, now you see this is reformatted. So it again pushes those things to the bottom of the list that you don't need. Must have features. So this is where you get into different features that you have to have. I need an EMR stylus because I am well invested in EMR styli. I have different pens. I like the options, the choice. EMR has been a standard for years. Personally, I don't think that the active capacitive pens are quite there yet. They're getting really close, but they're not there with the number of choices you have, not being tied into device-specific choices, not being sure if it's going to work cross-platform. So for me, EMR is going to be really important. Expandable storage. Again, it's a nice to have and I like it, so I'm going to click on that. Fingerprint reader, I don't need that. Front light, I don't need that. Microphone, I don't need it. And speakers, I don't need it. Because for me, that's not something that I'm going to be using my primary device for. So then you're going to go into quality factors. I really need a high contrast ratio. I also need high screen whiteness. But more importantly, I need the writing experience because I really need a good writing experience. This replaces paper for me. So now remember, I'm not doing this as looking at a reader. And that's another thing you have to consider. What are you looking for the device to do? And you'll see that coming through. And we'll go down to software features next. I do like the third-party storage integration, so I do click that. Adding blank pages to PDFs, it's not something I normally do, so I don't have to have that. Customized page templates, yes, that's something very important to me because of what I need to be able to do. Creating calendar entries from notes is a must-have. Community resources, again, a must-have for me. Digest, this is where it gets a little specific because of the fact that you have a digest in the partner app with one platform and not others. But for me, that's very important. Creating notes in the partner app, I don't necessarily need that, but it would be a nice to have. And to do features from notes, absolutely. Dedicated drawing app, I don't have to have that, but I am taking a class to learn how to draw. So I think it would be very useful to be able to have that on device. Allows software mods. To me, this, again, you have to watch that content. So I'm going to make sure that there's nothing that says plugins here. So you have to take time to look. Okay. I don't see plugins. So I'm going to say software mods and plugins are the same thing. And then right here, it says digest or knowledge base. Absolutely going to need that because I've already said I need digests. I don't need the Google Play Store for me. Handles PDF and hyperlink planners. Absolutely. I don't need infinite scrolls, so I'm not going to select that. Hyperlinks to notes and documents. That's a big one for me that I need. Inserts images. I don't really need that. It's a nice to have, not a need to have. Inserting text. Yes, I need that. Insert text from other sources. Absolutely. Integrated calendar app. Absolutely. Integrated to-do app. Yes. Keywords or tags, absolutely. Layers are a nice to have. I don't necessarily use them, but I think they're standard across devices. And then I do like to have the Kindle app. The reason is because I do have a lot of books on Kindle. So it makes it a nice to have to be able to have that on device. Now, if you pick Google Play, you're going to kind of get that both ways. Other reader app, Yes, because the idea, and you'll notice that the Supernote is my top pick currently, but that went down a little bit because there is no native way to have a secondary reader app on the Supernote without plugins or side loading. So it's very important that you think that through. I don't need a shape fill tool. I don't need a shape tool or snap to shape. I do need my star marks to later recall items. I do like the table of contents and headers, and I don't need the vertical scroll. So you'll notice that I've gone ahead and picked that. Quality factors. I don't need anything regarding AI. That is not something I currently need on my device. I do need a good handwriting search. I do need a web browser. Doesn't need to be fancy, doesn't need to be anything that's screaming fast, but I need one for being able to view external links. And then I do need a very good partner app. And I think that's really interesting and really important for me. So you'll notice as I go through all of this, there's a lot of things that I do need, a lot of things that are really important to me. You'll notice that I don't need AI factors. I don't need that component. It's not going to be useful to me. So if you come over and you look at my comparison here, the Supernote does have a web browser, so that's one small thing. Otherwise, this nails it. This nails everything that I would need to be able to do the things that I need to do. And you'll notice Supernote Nomad and Manta come in right at the top. Now, I didn't fill this out before. I did this in real time while you were watching on the screen. If you see any skip aheads or anything like that, it's basically just edits where I misclicked something or had an issue like that. But I love the way this works. So you'll notice, and Dave mentions in his video, that some of his things are based on how he's tested screen whiteness, brightness, contrast, and so those are going to be objective measures. He's also had some things where he's kind of ranked the different devices that are a little bit more subjective, but you take his expertise into consideration. So that's where you're going to get some of these ratings here. You'll see whiteness, contrast ratio are 5 out of 10. Respectively, the writing experience is a 10 out of 10. So you get some nuance in there, which I think is really important. The other reader app that is not native on a Supernote device, so it nails that. Creating notes in a partner app, not native on a Supernote device, so it nails that. The partner app, he gives it a 10 out of 10. So you'll be able to see all of these comparisons. Based on size, you see that the Manta is my number one fit, primarily because the Nomad is smaller. And if I'm saying I want a 10 plus inch device, I need to be very careful about not picking something smaller. Now, what's interesting, if you come down here, you're going to see that the next device is not a black and white device, which was one of my first things that I picked. But you'll see that the Books Note Air 5C, which is a Kaleido color device, actually ticks more boxes in all of my different components, all of my different things that I was looking for the perfect device for me. So that's really interesting, and it's really important to note and to call out, because you may end up getting a device that has things that you don't necessarily need, but that are important in other ways. So depending on how the ratios break out, the number of different components that you have, and you'll see there's a large gap here between 82 and 66%. But if we go ahead to the compare button here and hit compare here and then go to that, you're going to be able to get a good side-by-side of all of the different things that the Note Air 5C shares with the Supernote Manta. One for me was EMR. EMR is very important. Another was size. Another one was expandable storage. Writing experience, very high on both devices. You're going to get a good sense for why this tool would recommend to me as a third pick, and really, in some ways, a better pick over the Nomad, depending on how you look at it, because of the size. So if I know for sure that I'm not going to look at that size differential, I don't want something smaller than 10 inches. If that's the case, the Nomad goes out the window. So then the top two for me become the Supernote Manta and the Books Note Air 5C. And then it comes to that head-to-head matchup for what do I need the most? What are the features that I need the most? And for me, doing this just from what I currently use and need, it still comes down to the Supernote Manta. And that's without filtering in price. So it's really important that you consider all of those things. So let's go ahead, let's jump back over, let's have kind of some closing thoughts about what you think about me going through this experience, what it means, and recap a little bit why I think it's so important to make this decision, because it's something you're going to have to live with for a long time, hopefully. So let's go ahead and jump back over and finish out our conversation. All right, everybody. So what do you think? And I wanted to make this video because I am so impressed with the work that Dave and Mitchell did to make this tool, because I really wish it had existed 5 years ago. Now, would it have changed what I purchased? I don't know. At that point in time, I would have been dealing with a different mindset a little bit. There were less options available on devices. There were less size options available. Kaleido was fairly new. Front lights weren't as prevalent. So there's a lot of different things that you have to take with a grain of salt. But I also think, even though the complexities have grown, the base process is the same. So what did I mention at the front? First of all, what is the problem you are trying to solve? And is that something that this fits? And in addition, are you expecting something this can't do? Are you trying to replace an iPad just because you want to or because you need to? Are you trying to replace paper because you want to or because you need to? And then take that as a starting point. Then look at all of the other things that you have to essentially have to replicate your workflow that you're currently doing, either with a combination of a computer or an Android or Apple tablet, or with paper and pencil. Think about that. Then go and look at all the content you can. Absorb it like a sponge. Listen to my thoughts, listen to Dave's thoughts, all the other content creators like Aaron who are showing you use cases, giving you opinions. Tie those in. Look at Voya's deep dives, Khaled's deep dives. Look at Kit's top 10 lists. Listen to those discussions. Pull all of that in and really think to yourself, am I more of a fan of EMR? Am I a fan of active capacitive styli? Do I need a front light? Do I not need a front light? Do I need color? Do I not need color? All of those things are so important. Begin making that decision out front of those essential components by listening to people who are using these on a daily basis and giving you the best advice that they can to be able to help you make an informed decision. Then once you've done that, maybe even take a step in the middle, maybe even do like a Ben Franklin pros and cons list where you go down and you say, okay, here are all of the things that are great about each device. But I would actually argue that you don't have to do that middle step now that Dave and Mitchell have made this very intuitive interface to help you select, because this is your pros and cons list. This is your Ben Franklin matrix right here. And you can go through and you can check, what are the most important things to me? What are the things I don't care about as much? What are the things I'm indifferent to? And if you do that, you're going to get a really, really good starting point to finalize your decision, because it's going to tell you, based on your own selections, what the best recommended device is for you. Hopefully this has been helpful and useful to you. If you are on the fence and you've watched a lot of content already, go to Dave's tool in the description, fill that out and see what it gives you. If you're just getting started, follow the process that I've laid out here. It's going to make it an easier decision at the end. But either way, whatever you do, take your time. Don't rush the decision, but also don't get stuck in a rut to where you're afraid to move forward. Because as I always say, keep on moving forward, and in the end, you'll get to your destination. So thank you all so much for supporting the channel. Thank you for being here. Please like, subscribe, Add your comments down below. Let me know whether or not you agree with me, disagree with me, whether you think this is a good process, or whether you think there's another better way to go about this. We're a community of people who have really deep discussions on this channel, and I look forward to hearing from you as you continue that e-ink journey and that organizational journey. But until next time, keep on moving forward, and I will talk to you soon. Bye now.